أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome everyone to Monday's class. Jazakumullah for arriving early, on time. Very, very well done. Today's class is in its usual format. We will have our opening dua, followed by our ruling focus, which today is when you make a jerking sound as you read, also known as qalqala. And we will be using Suratul Balad today for our practice text, and inshallah we'll reach to verse 12. And our letter of the day is actually a revision of the qalqala letters that we've already covered, and you'll see as we get there. We'll carry on with some more practice text from the same chapter, and then we'll end with our assigning of homework and dua. If I can ask my colleague to bring a student to the mic so that we can start with our dua.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Will G2149 please unmute themselves?
Assalamu alaikum. G2149, assalamu alaikum. G2149, assalamu alaikum.
G2145, will you please unmute yourself?
G2145, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, darling. How are you?
I'm fine.
Alhamdulillah.
How are you?
Very well. Jazakumullah for asking. Alhamdulillah. Okay, sweetheart. So this is our dua for Monday. Repeat with me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Well done. Okay. So
Then again.
رب اشرح لي
رب اشرح لي
صدري
صدري
ويسر لي
ويسر لي
أمري.
أمري.
Well done. Just make yeah, don't make a bounce on the meme. Amri.
Amri.
Well done. And then the translation, oopsie daisy, underneath in English, please.
Lord, expand my mind and make my task easy for me.
And the reference?
Taha 26-27.
Well done. And do you know what Doha is?
Surah.
It is a chapter in the Holy Quran, and 26 and 27 are the verses within that chapter in which you will find this dua. Okay, sweetheart, Jazakumullah for coming to the mic. Allah Hafiz for now. And inshallah, we'll call you again another time. Okay, so, okay. So bear with me for a second. Let me, where has here we are. Let me just bring my PowerPoint to the screen. Okay, so as I mentioned a few moments ago, today's rule is about when you make a jerking sound as you read. And we'll just find out today when that happens. So these are 5 letters, and you'll recognize the grid because we did these letters a couple of weeks ago. So let me just go through these 5 letters, and I'll read them properly as they're supposed to be read, okay? Qaf, Ta, Ba, Jim, Dal. And I read them from right to left, as that's the way we read them in Arabic. Okay, so Whenever you see any of these letters in the Quran Majid, and when they are sakin, so when they have a sukoon on the top, there is a slight jerking sound when you read, a slight bounce. And today we'll go through how to make that bounce sound. But these are the 5 letters that are known as qalqala letters. Okay, qalqala is an Arabic word. Essentially, you bounce when you read these when they're sakin. Now, it's important that you memorize these, because when you're reading, you don't want to be thinking, oh, is this a qalqala letter or not? If you've already memorized them, it becomes much, much easier to make sure that you apply the correct rule. And a really useful tip to try and help you remember is just to take the first sound of each of these letters, reading from right to left. Qutabajad, the qatabajad, qutabajad. If you can remember that word, then you can remember these 5 letters. So that's a useful technique that many people use. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at each of these letters in turn, and we're going to look and remind ourselves how to pronounce these. We did cover them a couple of weeks ago, but we'll remind ourselves. And then we'll see how we can make that qalqala sound, that bouncing sound. And you'll see how knowing how to pronounce it properly really helps in me being able to make the proper qalqala sound. And we'll put that into practice with a couple of examples for each letter. So if I can just bring up the first letter. This letter is a qaf. Okay, that's the way to read it. 5 seconds long. Qaf. If you remember, the way you make this sound is you take the furthest back part of your tongue and get it to touch the roof of your mouth so that it actually blocks off the throat. So if you make that sound properly, it's then not very difficult to make the qalqala sound, because when you see a sakin qaf, what you do is you move your tongue away from the back of your mouth in order to make that bounce. And I'll demonstrate with a couple of examples, okay? There is in red a sakin qaf, okay, 2 times. The first one with the alif and the kasra, iq, iq. I made the qaf sound and I moved my tongue away, iq. And then the bottom example, riq, riq. Okay, so you need to know how to pronounce that letter, and you need to move that tongue away from the back part of the mouth. The letter do. The way you pronounce that is you take the tongue a little bit back from the tip, so not the very tip, and make it touch the junction between your front upper teeth, so the front teeth on the top, the 2 front teeth, the junction between those and the gums. You make that back part of your tongue touch that area. And because it's a thick and heavy sound, raise the tongue, slightly curl it, and it makes the sound thick and heavy. Do. When you see a sakin do, you need to bounce your tongue away from the gums. So knowing how to make that sound makes it easier to make the qalqala sound. Do, do. A couple of examples with the scene. Sato, sato. Heto, heto. Okay, the letter ba. This letter is formed when you take the wet parts of your lips. So if you think about your lips, there's the outside bit, which is what we call dry part, and then the bit that's slightly inside, the wet part. You press the wet parts of the lips together. Ba. That's the way to make that sound. When you see a sakin ba, you basically bounce your lips apart. Ba, ba. A couple of examples. Ib, ib. Robe, robe. I made that sound by pressing my lips together to make the b sound, but then I bounced them apart. Ib, robe. This letter, Jim. The middle part of your tongue touches the roof of the mouth above it. J. So if you practice, you'll know. Jim. When you see a sakin Jim, you bounce your tongue away from the roof of your mouth. J. J. A couple of examples. Aj. Roj. Aj. Roj. Dal. The tip of the tongue touches the junction of the upper two front teeth and the gums. So when you make that sound, that's where the tip of your tongue should be touching, where the gums and the front two teeth are joining. When you make the gulgla sound, you bounce your tongue away from the gums. The. A couple of examples. Jid. Had. Jid. Had. If you bounce the tongue away, then you can make that bouncing sound. Now, one really important thing to remember is the qalqala, the bouncing sound, is not the same sound as when the letter carries a fatha. And you have to be really mindful when you're reading the Quran Majid that you don't bring any trace of a fatha sound when you're doing pronouncing qalqala. And if I can go through a couple of examples, you can see here the same letters written twice. In the top one, the ba is a sakin ba. In that one, we have to manifest qalqala, the bouncing sound. But in the lower one, if I could just do this, the ba is a fatha. So if I read the top one, darabna, I joined the ra and the ba and I made the bouncing sound. Darabna. If I was to read the ba with the fatha, darabana. But if you're reading and you're reading quite quickly, it's quite easy to make the sakin ba sound like a ba with a fatha. So you have to be really careful. A couple of other examples. Same letters, but in one, the qaf is a sakin qaf, so we have to do a qalqala, a bouncing sound. But in the other one, the qaf carries a fatha. And this is how they will sound if you read them properly. If you read the sakin qaf, khalaqna, khalaqna. And if you read it with the fatha, khalaqana, khalaqana. And if you read really fast, you can quite easily make a sakin qaf sound like a qaf with a fatha. Just have to be really careful. Okay, so if I can have a student to the mic and we can practice just a few examples before we get to the practice text.
G2190, will you please unmute yourself?
G2190, Assalamu alaikum. G2190, Assalamu alaikum.
Can you give me a second? My brother's gonna do it. Is that okay?
Okay, so who's actually registered on the course?
It's both.
My brother, I'm just gonna give it to him. Is that okay?
What's his ID?
Give me a second. Let me check.
Okay, whilst you're checking, we'll get another student on the mic. If I can have another student on the mic, please.
Yes, just a second.
And if anybody, sorry, carry on.
G2146, will you please unmute yourself?
G2146, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, darling. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, very well. Jazakumullah, darling. Okay, so where can you see my red pointer?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Okay, so it's the first time I'm using that, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so we're going to use this word here, okay, to read and practice our qalqala, okay? There is a qaf, it carries a sukoon. This is one of those letters that makes a qalqala sound, okay? So when we read, we're going to make a slight bouncing sound. Repeat with me, listen quite carefully first of all, okay? Iq,
Ik.
Okay, so when you make the O sound, yeah, bounce the tongue away from the back of your mouth. Ik.
Ik.
Well done. The next one, the Ra with this alif with a sukoon, you say Ra.
Ra.
Well done. Iqra.
Ikra.
Well done. Okay. So off the tongue, the very back part of your tongue touches the back of the mouth, okay? And then you bounce it away. Iqra.
Ikra.
Mashallah. Very, very nice. Perfect. Let's move on, okay? This red letter ta with the sukoon, that is the qalqala sound that you have to make there, okay? Let's just practice that. Satu.
Satu.
Well done. Satu.
Satu.
Well done. All together. Fawasatuna.
Fawasatuna.
Sato.
Satu.
Okay. Sato.
Satu.
Well done. Okay. So the sin is a thin sound. Okay. Ta is a slightly thicker, heavier sound. Sato.
Satu.
Well done. Fawasatuna.
Fawasatuna.
Mashallah. Okay. Down here. Okay. Sakin ba. This is a qalqala sound. Ib.
Ib.
Mashallah. Perfect. Ibrahim.
Ibrahima.
Mashallah. Very, very nice. That's one of the easier ones to do because it's quite easy with your lips, okay? But again, that was really well done. Here we have a sakin jim. So remember, the middle of your tongue is going to touch the roof of your mouth and you're going to bounce it away to make the right bouncing sound. Aj.
Aj.
Mashallah. Beautiful. Ajruhu.
Ajruhu.
Mashallah. Okay, last one here. This sakin dal, that's where we're going to make the qalqala sound. Okay, so let's just put these together. Jid.
Jid. Can I do on my own?
Okay, but let's just get this right sound first of all, okay? Jid.
Jid.
Well done. Okay, so see if you can put it all together, darling.
Ya jidka.
Okay, so that was really nice in the sense that you read all the letters very nicely, but we've got to do the bouncing sound on the dal, okay? Because it's a sakin dal. It's a qalqala sound. Yajidka.
Yajidka.
Okay, so it's not a mushaddad dal, okay? So we don't press down on it. We just do a slight bounce. Yajidka.
Yajidka.
Mashallah, perfect. Very, very nice. Okay, Jazakumullah for coming to the mic, darling. Allah Hafiz. Inshallah, we'll hear from you again another time. Okay, so qalqala is 5 letters. When they carry a sukoon, you have to make a slight bouncing sound. It's really important to know how to pronounce those letters properly because when you know how to pronounce them properly, you'll know how to move your tongue in order to make the bouncing sound. Okay, so let's now go back to my PDFs. So if you bear with me for a second. Okay. Okay, so let's now, the chapter today is chapter number 90, Suratul Balad. It sits in part 30 of the Holy Quran, chapter number 90. It has 21 verses and there are one ruku. There is one ruku in there. It was revealed in Mecca and the order of revelation was, it was the 35th surah to be revealed. Okay, so what we'll do now is we will move on to our practice. So if I can just bring, here we are. Okay, so if I may have a student to the mic.
G2178, will you please unmute yourself?
G2178, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam, darling. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I am very well. Jazakumullah. Okay, sweetheart. So, as always, can we do Dawood and Tasmiyah to start off with, please?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
MashaAllah. Very, very nice. Okay. So, we're just going to start here and let's just work our way through the verse to start understanding what's going on, okay? First of all, there's a lam, carries a fatha. Just afterwards is an alif. That's a alif mad. Normally we would read that for 2 seconds. At some point, we will come to explain to you what this symbol means, okay? But for now, we're going to read this for 3 seconds. Here is a sakin qaf. This is one of the qalqala letters that we've just looked at, okay? We are going to join the alif with the qaf, but we're going to make a slight bouncing sound when we read it. Uq. Okay, 1 second timing, 1 second timing, 1 second timing. Vertical fatha, 2 second timing. Here is a lam sakin. Lam sakin is going to join with a muttaharik letter, the most recent muttaharik letter. So we're going to work backwards. It's not going to be this alif. It's not going to be this alif. Will it be this dal?
Yes.
Yes, because this dal carries a stroke. It's a muttaharik letter. So these two will join. We'll ignore the letters in between. 1 second timing, 1 second timing. And then here we're going to pause. And when we pause, we don't always read the very end exactly as it's written. We'll read it often differently to how it's written. And in time, inshallah, you'll learn those rules, okay? So to start off with, let me read this verse for you, and then I would like you to follow. Everybody at home also listen and follow along. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بهذا البلد
لا أقسم بهذا البلد.
MashaAllah, really nice. How many seconds on here, darling?
2.
2 seconds, okay? So when you read it, make sure you do 2 seconds, okay? It was just a touch longer than it needed to be. Now this dal, okay, at the moment it has a kasra, but when we pause, a rule that you'll get taught is that this will become a sakin dal. And so there's going to be a qalqala sound there because actually dal is one of those qalqala letters, okay? So do a slight bouncing sound. Lad.
Lad.
Well done. Okay. So let's move on to the next verse, okay? 1 second timing. Here's a nun sakin. There'll be a nasal sound. What nasal sound depends on the letter that's coming next. So far, you only know if it's a throat letter, the nasal sound is clear. So tell me, darling, is the next sound letter a throat letter?
No.
No, mashallah, well done. You knew that, very confident. So for now, just follow with me when I read that, okay? It's a different nasal sound to the clear one. Okay, we have a tanween here, okay? Now, normally we make a nasal sound and we have to look at the next letter to decide what that nasal sound is. And again, it's one of those rules that we haven't taught you yet, but this ba has an effect. And the effect that it has is that this tanween becomes, the noon sound becomes like a meme. So when I read this, I won't read it as hillun, okay? I won't do the n sound, but I'll do it as a meme, hillum. And I'll do a slight nasal sound, hillumbi, okay? So there'll be no noon sound, but there will be a nasalization. 1 second timing. This is a lam sakin, darling. Tell me, will it join with this alif here?
No.
Will it join with this alif here?
No.
Will it join with this dal here?
Yes.
Well done. Because
it's the recent vowel letter.
Mashallah, very, very nice. We ignore the two alifs in between. 1 second timing, 1 second timing. We're going to pause here so we don't read exactly as it's written. And we will read it slightly different to how it's written in this case, okay? And because this is a dal, and when we pause, it's going to become a sakin dal, we're going to do a little bit of a bouncing sound there as well, okay? So let's now clear the screen a little bit and read. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ
وأنت حل بهذا البلد.
MashaAllah. Okay, let's just work on this, okay? This is a mushaddad lam. Let's apply the technique that we know for mushaddad letters. When it's mushaddad, we ignore the stroke on it first of all. We just join, okay, to the mutaharik letter that it needs to join with, which is this ha. So let's just make that sound. Hil.
Hill.
Well done. Now, because it's a mushaddad lam, we know that there's actually two lams there. We need to press down. Hil.
Hill.
Well done. Hil.
Hill.
Okay, well done. Then we bring the stroke into play, which happens to be a dhammatain. But the dhammatain has got this, you might not be able to necessarily see it, but there's a little meme written next to the dhammatain. When we do this, we read it like this, L-U-M, lum, okay? Hillum.
Hillum.
Okay. Lum, lum.
Lum.
Well done, okay? So it's a l and a m sound, okay? M, not a noon, okay? Hillum.
Hillum.
Well done. And then we lead into the ba. Hillum bi.
Hillum bi.
Well done. That was really, really nice, okay? So one more time. وَأَنْتَ هِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ
وأنت حل بهذا البلد.
Well done. Okay. So when you practice later on, do make sure with the mushaddad lam that you make sure that you join and you press down on the lam, okay? Hillum.
Hillum.
MashaAllah. Well done. Okay, sweetheart. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic. Allah Hafiz. And we will speak to you again another time. If I can ask my colleague, if you can admit the people in the waiting room, and after the next student, make an announcement that they should be correctly ID'd. And then if they don't change, place them back into the waiting room. Okay, next student, please.
G2147, will you please unmute yourself?
G2147. Assalamu alaikum, darling.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, darling. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, very well. Okay, sweetheart. Dawood and Tasmiyah, first of all, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Well done. Okay, so let's just have a look at the next verse, okay? Wa, 1 second timing. Alif, there is a fatha beforehand. That's an alif mad. We're going to read that for 2 seconds. 1 second. At-tanween. As soon as we see a tanween, we have to remember there'll be a nasal sound. The nasal sound will depend on the next letter. Is the next letter a throat letter?
No.
No. Well done. Okay. So the sound that we're going to make here is dhim. Well done. Okay. Alif. Fatha just beforehand. This is an alif mad. 2 second timing here. 1 second timing. 1 second timing. We're going to pause. So we won't read necessarily as it's written here. And because of the way that we're going to pause here, we will make a qalqala sound on this dal. Okay, so let's clear the screen. Follow with me, darling. ووالد وما ولد.
ووالد وما ولد.
Mashallah, very nice. Okay, let's move on to the next verse, okay? 1 second timing. This dal is one of the letters that we introduced earlier on, a qalqala letter, if it carries a sukoon, which it does. So we're going to make a slight bouncing sound when we join. 1 second timing. There's a qaf with a sukoon. This is also a qalqala sound. We're going to make a slight bouncing sound when we join. Okay, here is an alif, there is a fatha. Normally we would say that's an alif mad, but if we look, there is a lam sakin coming here. That lam sakin's got to join with something. So let's just work our way backwards. Will it be with this alif?
No.
Will it be with this alif?
No.
Will it be with this noon?
Yes.
Because?
It is a mutaharrik letter.
Mashallah, very, very nice. Yes, the lam and the noon will join. We'll ignore the letters in between. Okay, here is a noon sakin. The nasal sound this noon sakin will make depends on the next letter. Is the next letter a throat letter?
No.
No, well done. So the sound this will make is not the clear sound, okay? And I will read that to you when we come to reading it. Blank alif with the fatha beforehand. Alif mad, 2 seconds. 1 second. Ya sakin, kasra just beforehand. 2 seconds because this is a ya mad. Here we're going to pause, okay? And we won't read it necessarily as it's written. Sometimes you will read exactly as what you see, but often you won't, okay? Here we're going to make this into a sakin dal, and because it becomes a sakin dal, we do qalqala, a bounce, okay? Now then, let's clear up the screen and read from here. Laqad. Okay, don't forget the qalqala sound. I'll just highlight the qalqala sounds here, okay? And I'll put it here as well. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
Mashallah, well done. Okay, so let's just work at it from the fi. Fi kabad.
في كبد.
Well done. And let's do it from this alif here. إنسان في كبد.
إنسان في كبد.
Mashallah. خلقنا Mashallah. خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
Well done. So from the beginning, لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد.
Mashallah, mashallah. Very nice. Jazakumullah sweetheart. Allah Hafiz for now. Okay, so if I could have another student to the mic and you could maybe address those parents who are incorrectly ID'd.
Can I please request all the students and parents to use the correct assigned G2 IDs? If you're using your name, we won't be able to admit you into class, or if you're already in class, we'll have to put you in the waiting room. So please correct your names and use your GIDs. Jazakallah. Can I please request G2148 to unmute themselves?
G2148. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, darling. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, very well. Jazakumullah, darling. Dawood and Tasmiyah, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Okay, so So when you're reading Dawood, darling, A'udhu billahi.
أعوذ بالله.
Well done. Okay, so you need to press on that lam a little bit. Okay, so let's look at the next verse, starting from this alif. Okay, we have a sakin ha. It will just join with this ya. 1 second timing, 1 second timing. Okay, so now we have a noon sakin, and then we know there'll be a nasal sound, but the nasal sound depends on the next letter. Okay, now we haven't taught this rule in G2 as yet, although we did teach this in G1, and we will come to it soon enough. But for now, all we're going to do is we're going to read this. Okay, we're going to ignore the noon. We will come to this, I think, next week, this rule. Okay, so this alif and this lam will join. We'll ignore this noon. Here is a noon sakin. The nasal sound here depends on the next letter. The next letter is, what is this letter, darling?
Ya.
It's a ya. Okay. Is that a throat letter?
No.
No. Okay. So the nasal sound that we make here is not a clear a nasal sound. Okay. So I will read that for you when we come to it. Okay. Sakin of, that is a qalqala sound that we're going to make. As soon as you see a qaf with the sukoon, you know you've got to make a bouncing sound. Okay. So we're going to make a bouncing sound there. 1 second timing, 1 second timing, 1 second timing. We are going to, okay, 1 second timing, 1 second timing. We're going to pause, whoops, Daisy, and we will read this differently here to how it's written. And this dal becomes a dal sakin, and we're going to do a bouncing sound because the dal is a qalqala letter. Okay, so let's clear up the screen a little bit, and then we will have a read, okay? Yahsabu allai.
Yahsabu allan.
Allai.
Allai.
Yaq.
Yaqa.
Well done. Yahsabu allai yaq.
Yahsabu allai.
Allai yaqdira. From here. Allai yaqdira.
Allah yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Well done. Ahad.
Ahad.
Well done, because we're going to do a slight bouncing on this dal sound. Okay, so the whole verse. Yahsabu allan yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Yahsabu allai yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Well done. Okay, so let's do it from alayhi. Okay, alayhi ahad.
Alayhi ahad.
Ra alayhi ahad.
Ra alayhi ahad.
Yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Well done. Okay, so let's just make the connection here. Dira.
Dira.
Well done. Yaqdira.
Yaqdira.
Well done. Yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Well done. Ayahsabu allan yaqdira alayhi ahad.
Ayahsabu alayhi
Allan
alayhi yaqdira alayhi ahad.
MashaAllah, well done. Okay, so let's now move on to the next verse, okay? 1 second timing. Wow mad, because this is a wow sakin with the dhamma just beforehand. 1 second timing. 1 second timing. Alif mad, because there's a fatha just before it. Okay, we are going to see a tanveen here. Okay, as soon as we see a tanveen, we know there's going to be a nasal sound. If we look, the next letter is an alif, but if we look, there's a mushaddad lam coming. This mushaddad lam is going to join with the mutaharik letter, the most recent. And so this mushaddad lam is going to join with this lam with the tanveen, okay? And when we read this, next week we'll go through this rule, but we will just do it as a lal, okay? Lallu.
Lallu.
Well done. Okay, there'll be no nasal sound at all, just a lallu. Okay, and then we will pause at the end here, so we won't necessarily read exactly as it's written here. So let's have a go at this particular verse. يَقُولُ أَهْلَكْتُ مَالًا لُبَدًا.
Yakulu aktuma lallu
Bada.
bada.
Well done. What is this letter here, darling?
Lam.
Well done. Okay. I didn't quite catch it when you were reading. Yeah. So this is luck. Well done. Okay then. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic. Allah Hafiz for now.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Okay. So if I can now just take you to the letters of the day, which are actually letters that we've already covered a couple of weeks ago. These 5 letters, Qaf, Ta, Ba, Jim, Dal. When these 5 letters, if you see them in the Quran Majid and they are carrying a sukoon, you have to make a bouncing sound. And for your homework, we would like you, I will go through it later on, but these letters, it's important that you learn what they are and you memorize them. Use the sound that is made when you put all the letters together. Qutaba jad, qutaba jad. And that will help you possibly to remember these letters. Okay, so I won't spend any more on these because we've already covered these in previous lessons, but it's just to remind you that these are the letters that you need to focus on. Okay, so we can go back to our reading. If I can have a student to the mic, please.
G2124, will you please unmute yourself?
G2124?
Yes.
G2124, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, darling. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. Jazakumullah for asking. Dawood and Tasmir to start off with, please, darling.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Okay. It'd be nice if you did it with some melody, darling.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
MashaAllah. Well done. Okay, then. So let's have a look at the next verse, okay? 1 second timing. 1 second timing. 1 second timing. Here we have a nun sakin, but we are going to ignore the nun sakin and we are going to join the lam with the alif. And we will ignore this nun sakin. We will explain next week why that is, okay? But we're just going to join the lam and the alif there. Okay, 1 second timing, 1 second timing. This symbol here is going to cause me to read this for longer than the 2 seconds that an inverted dhamma normally does. Okay, I'm going to read that for 3 seconds. 1 second timing. When I pause here, I'm going to read this slightly differently to how it's written. And this dal will become a dal sakin, and I'm going to do a bounce, a kalkala sound on that. Okay, so let's clear that up. And okay, read with me, darling. Yahsabu allam yarahu ahad.
أيحسب Oh,
Okay, we don't read this noon, okay? You will find out next week, but this mushaddid lam and this alif will join. You ignore the noon. Alam.
alam,
Okay. Alam yara. Carry on.
alam yara tu
Okay. Okay, carry on and we'll come back to this, okay?
ahadun,
Okay, all right then. So let's have another go, okay? Yahsabu.
ahyahsabu,
Okay. Yah.
ahyah,
Okay, there's an alif with a fatha. Ah.
ah,
Okay, there's no h sound there, okay? Just an ah.
ah,
Well done. Yah.
ahyah,
Okay, so there are 3 letters here, an alif, a ya, and a ha, okay? And when we read them, that's the order we're going to read them. So the alif with the fatha makes the sound a. A.
ah,
Well done. Ya with the fatha makes normally ya.
ya,
Well done. And this ha sakin will join with the ya, so will become yah.
yah,
Well done. Okay, just a ha, okay? There's no ho. Yah.
yah,
Well done. Then we put the 3 letters together. Yeah.
ahyah,
Okay, so you'll have to work on that, darling, okay? But it's the ya, ha. That's the order that they will work, okay? Ya, sabu.
ahyahsabu,
Okay. Okay, so you're going to have to work on that, darling, okay? Ya, ha. Let's just move on here. Lam and this alif will join. We'll ignore the noon. Al, and this is mushaddad lam. Al-lam.
alam,
Al,
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 alam.
alam,
Well done. A little bit harder on the lam, okay? Alam.
alam,
Well done. Yara. Okay, then this letter here is a ha. There are no 2 dots on the top, okay? A ha comes to the bottom of the throat. Ha.
ha,
Well done. On top of it is an inverted dhamma. Normally that would make a 2-second sound. But this symbol at the top says stretch that sound out for longer. And we'll do that for 3 seconds, okay? Hu.
hu,
Well done. Yarahu.
yarahu,
Okay, well done. And then when we read here, we're going to pause. So even though there's a tanveen here, we are not going to read this tanveen. Ahad.
ahad,
Well done, okay? Bounce with the dal. Ahad.
ahad,
Okay, so when you make the dal sound, bounce your tongue away from the, okay? Ahad.
ahad,
Okay, so the tip of your tongue is going to touch just behind your front 2 teeth onto the gums. The.
da,
Well done. Ahad.
ahad,
Okay, so we will practice on that, okay? Yahsabu allam yarahu ahad.
ahyahsabu, alam yarahu, ahad.
Okay, all right. We will work on the kalkula sign as we go along, okay? Okay, so let's move on to the next verse, okay? 1 second timing, okay? This lam and this mim are going to join. Lam.
Lam,
Here we have a jim with a sukoon on the top. Jim is a kalkala letter. So when we join this, we're going to say naj.
nudge,
Okay, so when you make the j sound, just bounce your tongue away from the top of your mouth, okay? Nudge.
nudge,
Okay, so, okay, we will practice on that, okay? This ayn and this lam mushaddad, those are going to join. Why? Because normally you would join a sakin letter to a mutaharik letter, but this tashdid here just takes over, okay? the tashdid, you can think of it as being stronger. So this mushaddad lam will join with this ayn. Al.
Al.
Well done. Allah.
Allah.
Well done. Okay, 2-second timing. Okay, and then when we pause here, we're going to read at the end, not necessarily as it's written. So listen carefully how I read, okay? Alam naj'al lahu aynayn.
Alam naj'ala
Allahu
Allahu aynayn.
aynayn.
Anayn.
Okay. Okay, sweetheart, your ID is, if you remind me,
G2124.
G2124. G2124. Okay. Okay, then, sweetheart. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic. Allah Hafiz for now. If I can have another student to the mic, please.
G2125.
G2125. Assalamu alaikum. G2125. G2125. Okay, if you can have somebody else.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, wa alaikum salam. Is that G2125?
Yes.
Okay, well done. Okay, how are you, darling?
Good.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, sweetheart, Dawood and Tasbih to start off with, please.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
Well done. Okay, so let's look at the verse that we're going to read with the wa. Okay, 1 second timing. 1 second timing. Alif mad, because of this fatha, 2 second timing. Tanween. We have to look at the letter that it's going to join with, okay? And it's going to be this one here, okay? When we join those, the sound that we make is no.
No.
Well done. Okay. So if you know, do you know the niyat in namaz? The wajjahtu, do you know that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So there's a bit in there which says hanifan. You know that bit?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's exactly that sound that we're going to make here. Nova.
Nova.
Okay. 1 second timing. 1 second timing. Okay. And then when we pause here, we're not going to read it necessarily as it's written. So repeat with me, darling. Okay. وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ.
Walisana.
No.
Shafain.
Shafatain.
Shafatain.
Well done. Okay, let's move on. 1 second timing, 1 second timing, 2 second timing. This noon here is a mushaddad noon. It's going to join. Will it join with this lam?
Yes.
Okay. The rule for a mushaddad letter is that it needs to join with a letter that carries a stroke that comes before it. So let's just move back. Does this lam carry a stroke?
No.
No. Does this alif carry a stroke?
No.
Does this ha carry a stroke?
Yes.
So which letter will this noon join with?
Noon.
Okay, so this noon will join with this ha with the dhamma. Okay, we'll ignore the letters in between. The mushaddad noon will join with the most recent mutaharik letter, which happens to be this. So let's apply the rule. We join the ha and the noon. Hun.
Hun.
Well done. Then we have to remember that when it's a noon mushaddad, we have to do a 2 second ghunna sound. So we say hun.
Hun.
Well done. And then we bring the stroke that's above the mushaddad letter or with the mushaddad letter into play. But in this case, there is a sakin jim coming afterwards, okay? So we'd have to do this. Hunnaj.
Hunnaj.
Well done. So there's a lot of rules there that are playing in there, okay? That there's a mushaddad letter that's joining with something, okay? Then there's ghunna on the noon, and then there is a sakin join with this noon, but also this jim happens to be a qalqala letter, so you have to do bouncing as well, okay? So there's quite a few rules going on there. And then when we finish, we're not going to read this exactly as it's written. So repeat with me, darling. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ
وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ
وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ MashaAllah, mashallah. Don't forget the n at the end, yeah? Dain. Well done. Okay, sweetheart. Jazakumullah for coming to the mic. Allah Hafiz for now. Okay, so I will just recite this chapter up to here for you, and then we'll have the homework. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين. Okay, so our homework today is to practice Surat Al-Balad, chapter number 90. We reached to verse 11, so I'll adjust this before we post it to the parents. Practice verses 1 to 11. Look out for the qalqala letters. There's quite a few in that chapter. This is why we chose that for this particular lesson. And make sure that when you do the bounce on the qalqala letters that you don't make a fatha sound. Apply all the rules that you know, including the ones that we've taught you, as well as all the ones that you may already know. Use the PDF that we supply to the parents group or your own Quran Majid. For your letters, these are the 5 letters that make the qalqala bouncing sound. We'd like you to memorize these letters, and you can use the phrase qutba jad in order to try and memorize. Okay, so if I may have a student to the mic to do our concluding dua.
G2173, will you please unmute yourself?
G2173, Assalamu alaikum. Okay, not to worry. I will read this dua then for everybody, and if everybody can follow with me at home as well, okay? Allahumma arhamni bil-Qur'anil azim. Oh Allah, have mercy on me through the Quran the Great. Jazakumullah for attending the class. Inshallah, you learned something today. For now, we will see you all tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.